For those that didn't see, there was a season 15 AMA on Reddit with Alec Dawson, Kenny, and Scott Kennedy, who's a hero designer, who is AKA Custa, which is hilarious. They're actually having Custa go out there because Custa's been working on stuff on the Overwatch team for a while now. He was actually telling us at the spotlight that he was doing the perks. A lot of the perks system was him. So, which explains, part of, I guess, why it feels so good. It feels good. I mean, some of them are broken more than others, but anyways, I figured we should take some time and read through it and see what's up here, because I've heard there's some good ones and there's some silly questions that even get answered. So as a refresher, these are the devs, and Hypnoman asked, which perks had the highest impact on hero performance? Will perks have a higher priority in terms of balance than base hero perks, or will we see a combination of both going forward? I don't know what base hero perks? Will perks have a higher priority in terms of balance than base hero perks? What does that mean? I'm guessing they meant abilities, but. So Alex said, some of the winners so far have been Ana, Bastion, Pharah, Ramatra, and Winston. No surprises there. After it comes to individual perks, I'm actually surprised. I guess Torb's really strong. I was gonna say Tracer could be in here, but Torb's so good. When it comes to individual perks, Ramatra's Vengeful Vortex, Mauga's Firewalker, Zarya's Energy Lance, and Soldier 76 Agility Training have all been quite impactful. It's important, though, to look at the combination of your minor and major perks, what rank thresholds players are using them at, and how quickly a hero is gaining their perks. There's still quite a bit for us to dig through there. In the immediate, we mostly plan on balancing perks in order to make them feel more impactful. There will still be some core kit tuning alongside that, but there's still a meaningful amount of change that we want to inject into the system throughout the next few patches. Tuning the perks to an actual perk swaps. Tuning the perks in actual perk swaps, hoping for some in 16.0, are included in that. So wait, they actually are gonna allow you to switch perks in the future? Emo, take a big raid. Appreciate you. Hope you had a good stream. Hello, if you're joining us. We're going over the Reddit AMA right now. I will say, though, this is actually very interesting. Because I think that the balance of Overwatch has always been somewhat close, right? Like, it's all about just, like, tuning who you want to be strong at the moment. Other than a couple outliers, like Orisa outlier, Mauga outlier. Now they don't have to actually change the base numbers too much. They can change the perk numbers more, and it will change the way they're playing. So that's actually pretty damn good. We'll see. I'm surprised like Torb's not on here, because like Torb feels super, super good, but we'll see. Either way though, perks being able to swap in 16 seems awesome. It's a finer adjustment knob because changing perk numbers impacts less of the game's runtime. True, but also like for years, the content on that side of Overwatch has always been just like changing the meta. And now they can kind of do that without changing the base too much. And like they can kind of swing it in whatever way you want to play the game, which is kind of nice. Triscan asked, Clash can be really fun when the stars align. Anything you can share about what the plan to do with the mode in the future? I was really looking forward to seeing old 2CP maps reworked. Oh, and speaking of old maps, any hope for Gothenburg to get a second life one day? Alex says, like you, I also believe Clash is awesome when it all comes together. We actually spent a good amount of time on Clash's scoring before we made a final decision to pull it from competitive. Even with scoring changes, we believed the mode needed some fundamental geo changes to points A and E to perform better as a competitive mode. Currently, we are experimenting with building another Clash map from the ground up with a different approach to the layout to see if that solves some of the core issues the mode has. That's all very early, but hopefully some significant geo changes along with scoring changes can get Clash into a great spot. Granted, they probably already had the map fully made. They probably are just like, okay, we have this map done. Let's see if we can just change the way the points work and maybe make it feel different. But Clash is just kind of awful. There's literally no reason in higher tier play, like ranked or competitive play, to attack point E or point A, like the end points. It's much more advantageous to win point B or D and then set up on the high ground and wait. because then it's almost like playing against like an escort or hybrid where you play attack, how it's harder to attack than it is to defend on average, which is why there's like mechanics for like slowing down spawns and distance to spawns, right? I'm also of the opinion that I think there's too many game modes. I think they should simplify it a little bit more. I don't think Overwatch needs more game modes. I think it just needs more maps for those iconic game modes. And that's just like the bread and butter of Overwatch. I respect the attempt, but I that's just how I feel about it. Banethor asks, kudos to the dev team for trying something so different. For me, it seems to be a hit already. Also, yeah, you're right. They didn't say anything about Gothenburg. For me, it seems to be a hit already, and I can't wait to get my hands on Stadium. Also, I guess this is a good place to plug this right now. So somewhere on the forums, I think, you can actually sign up to like get into like a closed test to play Stadium early. And they actually open it up to the public. And I think you have to like sign some stuff. It's like NDA'd, but like you can't like stream it or anything. But I actually had some people in my chat earlier saying that they got to play it. NA only though? Well, I think its servers are NA only. Couldn't you just sign up and just play from wherever? Would probably be fine. Oh, it's closed now? Well, they might do another round maybe in the future. I couldn't find it when I heard to sign up about it. They probably intentionally did that though. They probably put it in like a weird spot of the forums, because if they tweeted out, hey, check this thing early, they probably would have got absolutely flooded with stuff, you know? Wait, I'm not even joking. This literally just dropped as we're talking. And it's the director's take, catching up on our AMA, and it's just like a small brief thing, and then it just breaks down everything into one section. I don't know which one I should do now. I don't know which one I should do now. I feel like I should just keep going. I'll read Aaron's part at the end. Where were we? Oh yeah, right here. Hands on Stadium. Chicken or egg question. Did Junkenstein's Revenge success serve as a spark for building a new game mode with talents more permanently into the game? Or was this a way in the back of mind given the amount, or was this always in the back of mind given the amount of work that had gone into talent since Overwatch 2's development? Second question. What was the thinking behind limiting perks down to just two choices, like two and two choices? And is this something that you think would change in the future? I personally really enjoyed how more choices really lead to different early and late game experiences. Alex says, actually neither. The true impetus for this was our need for a game system layer to introduce more change into the core game. Having some talents to pull from was nice to have, but a large majority of the perks were built for the perk system specifically. The team had gotten really great at expanding kits, so there was plenty of good experience for us to bring good learnings into building perks. Junkenstein's lab gave us more signal for Stadium. Junkenstein's lab gave us more signal for Stadium and how much we could expand the bounds of an Overwatch match while making it still feel like Overwatch. Interesting. We played with a number of different iterations. Originally, we had 3 levels, but there was no choice. Didn't feel very different, and some iterations later, we gave players their minor perks passively, but you didn't have a choice between you got minor perks passively, but you had a choice between 2 major perks later on in the game. We really liked the choice that gave, so we decided to bring it in earlier at the minor perk level. Overall, we felt this was the right amount of change to introduce initially. We were changing some fundamentals of how Overwatch worked, and we were trying to measure how much we could disrupt that. Maybe we could have gone even further, but I think we're in a good place for now, and I think with time, we'll see how far the player base wants us to take systems like this. I actually am in agreement. I think they could take it further, and they should take it further. I think it's fine for right now. It's actually probably better that they started small like this in 2 and 2. I wonder in the future, like something I thought about was, what if I didn't want to choose my major perk? What if I wanted the other minor perk? You know what I mean? Like, what if the other minor perk was so good to have both? It's like, I'll just take 2 minor perks and just say major perk, right? Or you upgrade really far, and it's like, as the game goes really deep, then you could actually get the other minor perk. So like minor perk, major perk. And if the game goes really long, you get the other major perk or the other minor perk. Although that one is just more of like a using what you currently have system. I would be curious to see like how deep that could go over time. Because in this AMA, spoiler alert, they actually talk about counter swapping later on. I saw it on Twitter yesterday. And apparently counter swapping is actually down like pretty significantly since the introduction of perks. So it's kind of cool how much impact it's had already. Next up, Apostle asks, how does the team decide who gets the fun perks? This isn't gonna go well. Like Farah, Kiriko, Ana, who get the new ability perks, Bastion, Torb, or Bastion, Orisa, Torb, and who just gets numbers buffs, Reaper, Genji. Are the numbers buff just placeholders with plans to go more extreme in the future to match other heroes? Alex responds, well, the goal overall is to make fun perks for every hero. That can be more difficult on certain heroes though, as boosting certain elements of their kit can cause issues. Currently, the number buff perks are some of the perks we like the least, and plan on changing a handful of those over time. Wow, that's phenomenal actually, because I don't think it's any secret that like Genji's perks don't feel great. And I think if I've learned anything from Rivals, is people like having more buttons to press. They like having more abilities. They like having more things to do. So this is actually a really nice thing that they're considering. This initial launch has given us plenty of signal on which perk combinations players find compelling and which ones they don't. I think it's important for us to stay true to our values for minor and major perks. Your minor perks are supposed to be lighter, nice little upgrades. Your major perks are supposed to be transformative. We have some work to hit that goal for all the heroes and offering more transformative major perks. I'm in total agreement with that. I'm glad that they see that as well. Both Summer's major perks stuck to the point where I don't even pick one. Yeah, so there's definitely some winners and losers in the perk system. I think it's fair to say though, most characters got wins, right? Like even if they're not exciting perks for some characters, most still got wins across the board. Very few characters didn't get any wins in the perk department, right? Which is fair, but also pretty good. Rob Manfred's Fixer asks, do you view perks as a way to limit the counterpicking and power spikes of certain heroes? If so, do you think they have shown early signs of achieving that, and what adjustments would you make going forward? Any examples of heroes you'd like to shore up in that respect? Alex responds, we did want to add more friction to counter swapping, and we've seen that drop quite a bit since Season 15's launch. It'll be some time before players settle on how much less they want to counter swap, but in ranked role queue, we've seen that players swap about 25% less, and more so at the highest ranks, Masters Plus. Players swap much more than the ranks below that. Whoa, that's crazy. A 25% drop in counter swapping just from perks means they're doing their job. For power spikes, the goal of the perk system isn't to limit power spikes. We actually introduced more power spikes and hopefully more texture to your individual hero's movement, individual hero's moment-to-moment gameplay through the perk system. We think a number of our heroes need bigger moments than they had previously. Agreed. Going forward, we're looking at raising up some of the less impactful perks and making sure you feel there's a real choice between your minors and majors. We've had a lot of opportunity to make the choice more interesting by cutting out some perks players aren't gravitating towards. Things like Roadhog's pig pen throw distance. Yeah, the pig pen throw is just kind of... There's almost no reason to want that perk at all. Like, other than just like, okay, like there's nothing else to do. Number 32 asks, in the spotlight, Alec mentioned a refresh of the perks in the middle of the year. Does this mean 4 brand new perks for everyone? Saw someone mention Aaron said something along those lines but couldn't find it anywhere. Or is it more like a few perks will be changed or tweaked if desperately needed here and there before the refresh? And the refresh is more thorough for perks that are less lopsided and not 4 brand new perks for everyone. Alec responds, the goal there will be that every hero gets at least 1 new perk to play with. Still scoping out what the refresh would look like for Season 18, but somewhere around 25 to 50% of the perks are changing, some being completely new and some receiving significant tuning. If we have perks that players really love, we don't want to immediately remove those, and the refresh would be looking at perks that are more middling in interest. We'd also like to evaluate how the perk system functions overall at that point too. That could include changes to the catch-up mechanics, gain rates, or even starting level choice. Whoa. Those are fairly early discussions though, and how the season goes will give us good insight into where those take those perks next. This might be a hot take. I think they should go 3 perks. If they get to the point where they have enough, you should start with a perk. Hear me out on this. I think one of the most engaging moments from when I first started playing the new perk system is overtime. Overtime is so cool now, where you spawn in and you're like, okay, we're about to attack, we only got a minute. I got to choose both my perks. Which 2 perks do I choose to give us the most impact to push the cart as far as we can in 1 minute,
Hello.
Right? So just like when you load into the game, having like even a most basic level perk, something small to just be like, okay, for this game, I want to play this way or I want to play this way, I think would probably bring it to the next level. And then you misclick your perk and up. Well, that's why I think you should have the ability to change your perks. I don't think you should be locked into a perk period. Like if you want to have some type of mechanic to make it so that it's like more annoying, right? Like let's say you swap. Let's say you're on Ana, right? And you want to choose the other perk instead. You have to swap off Ana and then swap back. So you lose your ult charge, right? Maybe that's a penalty for swapping your perks. But like you still have the perk level. That way you can just click through and re-choose your perks again, right? Like I'd be cool with that. I think that's a good way to give people the ability to swap perks, but also like you can't just be swapping perks constantly throughout the game. There's a sacrifice, right? And also, I think it'd be a little bit more exciting. It'd give 3 levels of perks. And then you could actually stretch it out and make the major perks more expensive towards the end of the game, but also make them even more impactful. Does that make sense? I don't know if they would go with three choices on each level though. Just because like think about like buttons wise, I think I disagree with the perk swapping. I think there should be a small period of time to undo the perk if you misclick. Oh yeah, sure. Like if you want to say like, so you misclicked really quickly and you're like, wanted to choose the other one really, really quickly. Sure, that's not what I'm talking about though. I'm talking about like, we choose my perk, 2 minutes later, shit. Actually, this other perk would be way better. I want to swap. You currently can't do that, but I want to give you the ability to do that. But let's say you're playing Ana, right? And you're playing against an Ana and they have the nano perk, right? If you know the Ana has nano, you're probably not going to jump the Ana because she'll just nano somebody and she'll survive. But if she swapped to the other major perk for headshots and you didn't realize it, you know, now the game's being played totally differently and they had no downside to swapping. That's what I'm talking about. Anyways, let's move on. Sorry, I yapped probably a little too much. Once Told Tale says, what are some interesting perks that the team scrapped along the way? Alex says, we played with a variety of movement perks for heroes that don't have much mobility. We wanted to see if this could do a movement perk for Torbjorn. I think it only lasted a playtest or 2, but Torbjorn could launch himself off of his turret by double jumping on it. And the idea was that if you had the sticky turret, you could change the angle of the leap and catapult yourself into backlines. Maybe we will come back to that one day. It was certainly silly. That's awesome. That's actually funny as shit. Next, Knobs asks, are there any ideas to make Mystery Hero mode less stomping with new perks? Currently, perk system is another advantage that a winning team will have to compare, or that a winning team have compared to the team who's currently losing. I know it's just a non-competitive mode with no big priority, although it's a huge player base. Alex says, we have a fix for this coming next week actually. You'll get 2 random perks, 1 minor and 1 major, each time you spawn. Wait, that's gas. That's actually such a good idea. 1 minor, 1 major, randomized every single time? Hell yeah, that's actually a genius idea. Conflux asks, what's the overall design goal/pillars for perks? For some, heroes' perks seem to be covering weaknesses that they may have, Pharah's Drift Thrusters or Reaper's Dire Triggers, while other perks seem to allow players more skill expression. Sigma's Massive Impact or Ana's Biotic Bounce. And some perks just seem odd or unfitting for the hero, Sombra's White Hat or Moira's Contamination. Is there a set of philosophy for the perks that can be shared with the community? Because it seems like perks are trying to solve a lot of problems in the sandbox. Alex responds, perks are mainly about creating new things for your hero to do, increasing situational viability, and giving you more agency over your in-match experience, for the goal of increasing the amount of situations in which a hero can be viable. They can come through via shoring up weaknesses against certain heroes. That can come through adding mobility, so certain heroes can be played on more maps. And that goal led to perks like Junkrat's Frag Cannon, Sigma's Levitation, and many more. For perks like Sombra's White Hat, that is fulfilling a particular hero fantasy that many players wanted us to lean into, and we think that it's an interesting opportunity that the perk system creates. That was my line of thinking as well. Over time, we'll see how players respond to some of those more off-the-wall ones. Yeah, that's like the whole, what I thought with the Moira orb, right? Like, what the hell are you gonna add for Moira? Real talk, like what cool, interesting shit can you add for Moira? They did the Enfeeble orb way back during like the beta, and that was like their test to try to make Moira more viable, and it was kind of annoying, and it just was kind of shit. So I think this was just like a different version of that idea that they went with for the Contamination. So, you know, I think some of them, they just don't have as much ideas that have been floated around. But for Sombra, like hacking hacking teammates to heal them, that's something that's existed for a long time as like an idea. So it makes sense. Like sometimes some of these, like if they didn't have a good idea, like let's just give what the community wanted. Why not? Chaos asked, very important question. Will the new hero since Overwatch 2 release be getting dance emotes? You know, I always find it very, very funny, in a good way. The difference between the issues of casual players and like competitive players with Overwatch, because competitive players' issues come down to like Sojourn's OP right now, Torbjorn's really strong, Orissa's a wall, counter swapping, support synergies. But casuals, the casual player base of Overwatch is like when the Ramatra getting a dance emote. Kenny responds, I don't know when everyone's dance emotes are coming in. Wait, but I can confirm that Ramatra is up next and soon TM. Wait, see, they knew it. They knew it. That's like the class. It's like, it was like when Venture Skin, when Ramatra dance emote, soon will arrive someday. Blizzard does guarantee that soon will be here before the end of time. Maybe do not make plans based on soon, as Blizzard will not be liable for any misuse or even the casual glancing at soon. Yes, the Blizzard soon TM is probably one of the oldest memes at this point. Okay, next up, Son of Gary asks, are perks going to start rotating next season, or are you going to wait and let the current batch simmer a bit before changing them? Bouncing off of that, if you're looking at specific underperforming / less interesting perks now, which ones are on the potential chopping block? A lot of my friends have noted that the extra throw range on Hog / Junk Trap is being quite weak. No. Junk Trap one is actually pretty goated. If you ever see this, you got to give that one more respect. I'm telling you. The Hog one, yeah. Finally, do you have any desire to add another level to perks? Either something in between minor and major, or something above major. And he responds, we're going to start rotating some perks in Season 16, but before we get there, we got a bunch of balance changes and tweaks coming in Season 15 mid-cycle patch, and there's some good things coming for some underperforming picks. Things like Hog Toss now increases the damage of Pigpen. Juno's double jump reset perk is also going to increase the duration of glide boost. Whoa. On the under end of the spectrum, Basham self-repair resource meter is coming back. Ah, I mean, it was kind of needed. That shit's so broken, but it's funny. Yeah, I get it. We did a ton of iteration on how many levels perks should come with. There were versions with 2 levels up through I think 4, and even one where you eventually had all minor and major perks. 3 levels has been the sweet spot for a while, but that's not to say the system can't evolve. Still a bit early, but it's a system that can evolve if it needs to be. Mod Williams says, was pre-selecting perk / perk presets ever considered? Kenny says, We did discuss the idea of pre-selecting perks, and the original design even had an interface for them as a loadout in the hero gallery. But once we started playtesting the abilities themselves, there were a lot of situations where we'd want to go with a different perk based on the situation at hand, being locked into a choice made prior to being really on 100. Sorry, being locked into a choice made prior to really being 100% on what you could want to choose felt like a worse option than always giving yourself options. Makes sense. That's not to say that this couldn't change as people get to the choices or get used to the choices in their playstyles with perks become a bit more cemented though. Cryptographer asks, what is a primary weapon archetype you want to fit in that you haven't yet, or think at the very least is underexplored? Kenny responds, the one weapon that always comes up during the what's next discussion is the flamethrower. We love to get one in, but it's gotta be epic. That would be kind of funny though. I'm not saying Overwatch should do team-ups, but if Overwatch ever did team-ups, imagine a Mei team-up with whatever flamethrower hero came in. I think that'd be funny. Mod William says, do we have any stats on which perk selections are the most one-sided? E.g. one perk is picked over the other 90% of the time. Oh, Custa finally! Scott. We do have stats that show perks selection rates per hero. I would say it's variable depending on the hero and the rank that they're being selected. In general, when a perk has an incredibly high pick rate, it's due to the other option not being enticing. For example, Roadhog's minor Hog Toss isn't picked very often compared to Scrap Hook. Other option like Ramatra's Void Surge is a cool perk to play with that increases the hero's damage, so it's much preferred over the simpler defensive option Prolonged Barrier. Overall, the perk selection rates that are one-sided are the ones that you would expect, and we're using these stats and feedback to identify which perks need to be either balanced or changed in future patches. You know what's the best part? We're not even at hero bans yet, because hero bans is going to do this exact same thing, where it's going to show some insane numbers to the team and be like, hey dude, we don't want to play against this hero, or hey dude, this hero sucks to play against, or hey dude, this hero is busted. All of that info is going to be super good in Season 16. Hey, things look good. Brutal Rogue. Are there any perks that you've seen a lot of praise for that you could potentially incorporate into the hero's base kit? Costa says, there aren't any any current plans to implement specific perks into hero kits, but there are perks that have helped heroes in ways that could lead to changes in the future. I think the biggest example of this would be Bastion. The perks have helped fill in some holes in their kit. For example, Armored Artillery making the ultimate more dynamic, Smart Bomb helping Bastion's lack of mobility, and Self-Repair aiding survivability issues. A resource limitation is incoming in the mid-season patch. These perks have made the hero both better overall and much more fun to play as well. This was some of the major goals perks that we're trying to accomplish, but I can see us taking some parts of perks and putting them into base kits as hero changes in the future. That makes sense. You know, this also explains probably why they were holding back on like reworking certain heroes. Malga. Hoping that perks were going to make some big changes. I wonder if they did. Captain Ravage asks, this is for Costa. What was the thought process behind giving Ana headshots despite the fact that you cannot hit crits? Costa says, good thing for those who can't hit headshots like me, we have double nano boost. Mountain Ape following up on the above comment, and perhaps more seriously, Scott, how many shoeies have you done while on campus? And how many team members have you convinced to join you? Costa responds, not enough, so 0. Actually, you know what's funny? There was a conversation at Spotlight of who in the Overwatch community is going to take the shoeies gauntlet, because Costa retired from streaming. So who will carry on the legacy? And I think it was like a toss-up between Emong, Jay, Reinforce, and there was someone else too, I don't remember. Rob Manfred's Fixer. Which perk or which perks, too good or too bad, are you monitoring the most? Do you plan on fully replacing perks every 6 to 12 months? Or would you rather keep the ones that are working, adjust the ones that are almost there, and swing for the fences by replacing the rest? Costa responds, there are definitely some on the radar that we're keeping an eye on. Obviously, Tracer's major perk Flashback was the one we were wary of and are looking to see how impactful this perk can be. Mobility perks like Zarya's minor jump ups, this gives her a lot of vertical mobility and is very strong on some maps, but its pick rate varies dramatically depending on the rank. I remember when I made my tier list, people were like, dude, the grav one's so good. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, the jump up is insane. Like that's the better one most of the time. Not every time, but most of the time. It really does probably depend on rank. There is a list of perks that have been underperforming both in win and pick rate, and we're actively looking to make balance changes or even replace them in Season 16. The goal is to make every set of minor and major perks feel like they're a choice to be made depending on your playstyle, the map, and the match ongoing. If a perk feels like it's always the right choice or the wrong choice, then we want to make changes. Good to know. Ms. Liz says, hi, question for Custa. How are you so smart, talented, and amazing at your job? Delete this part before you post the $20 PayPal and future Hanzo skin will be sent to your account. But more seriously, what are the developers' favorite perks? Not necessarily the best ones, but their favorites. Custa responds, thank you for your kind and honest question. I personally had the most fun with Craftsman. If you haven't tried chasing your pinning Reinhardt to give him some armor, it's a lot of fun. I can attest to that. It is actually very fun. Other notable mentions would be Pharah's concussive implosion or Zarya's jump ups. Super Snive Matt says, howdy. Wanted to ask the team or how the team decides when to strictly buff an ability versus when they give it a drawback. Stuff like Sombra's lockout duration increasing but decreasing her hack range by 30%, and Mercy's flash heal being tied to res, where using flash heal means you can't res for 15 seconds, and using res means you can't flash heal for 30. But then we see Tracer get all of her blinks back on recall for a massive boost, despite no drawback, like freezing her blink cooldown or increasing her recall cooldown. Do you see yourselves introducing drawbacks to more perks, or removing/reducing ones that shake up under/overperforming perks? It's actually a good question. A little complex, but a good question. Casa responds, when first ideating on perks, the team included more perks that had a strong benefit but a drawback. It was found that in some situations, it could feel worse to play a perk even if the benefit was so strong. I could see that. This can be seen currently with Sombra's major stack overflow. We wanted to give players an option to be able to increase the lockout duration to secure more kills, but reduced range makes it riskier. We received a lot of feedback that this perk doesn't feel good to use or to play against, so we're planning on making a balance change to help and potentially replace it in the future. We want to avoid situations like these in the future, and in the instance we do have a perk that has a drawback, we want to ensure that other perks option doesn't always have a drawback, so there's always a beneficial option. Okay, I mean, I guess that makes sense. So it sounds like if they're gonna give something power, they want to give it even more power than it probably has now. But also, like, they don't want it to be unfun to play against. That's a tough balance to do. And it wants to make it worth it, because it won't always be worth it. Or if they do that, they just say, don't give it a big or any drawback. Because there are some perks that have almost no drawbacks and such a big plus. So I like that. That's pretty good. Reinforce asks, I'm curious what the upper limitations are of perks as it relates to hero design and hero identity. For example, I think Mercy is a good example of a hero that does not have the same level of skill expression as Tracer. Obviously just an example. Would there be a world in which Mercy could receive a perk that could potentially elevate Mercy's skill expression in exchange for more impact? Additionally, do you view perks as seasonal, in which, for example, extreme example, one season of Overwatch, Mercy might lean into the damage boost aspect, whereas in future seasons, for the purpose of changing things up, Mercy might even get a perk in which she can speed boost her teammates instead. I think this could potentially be a pretty dramatic but fun way to change up the game and help some heroes to still be played, but not conventionally fitting into certain compositions. But perhaps in your eyes, it's a bit of an extreme for the purpose that Mercy's kit is extreme for the purpose that Mercy's kit is supposed to serve. Custa responds, hey Johnny, for the first round of perks, we're focused on adding perks that enhance or change the way that you play heroes. In the future, we could implement more transformative perks that could add skill expression or change the style in which you would currently play a hero. I bet their big concern is readability. right? Like, how would you know the difference between a Mercy who's going speed boost versus damage? You know what I mean? And it's like, well, speed boosting one player is probably not that useful either. So you'd have to be like a chain thing where you chain everybody for it, and then that's also a big change. And they probably also started a little small. Green beam, yeah, green beam would be funny. I think they were a little bit scared still. Don't forget, this is pre-rivals, so they're not swinging for the fences yet. So they probably wanted to be a little bit more conservative. But I could see that happening in the future. I wouldn't say that perks have seasonal themes in which they will be designed to play a hero a certain way, but we've learned a lot about what perks are in the most interesting and fun, while also seeing the impact they can have on a hero's win/play rate. Zaka Ino says, now that perks are in players' hands, what is your approach to moving forward when it comes to balancing and interacting with them? Are you planning on radically changing perks in the future? And are you currently looking at adjusting the perks that are over/underperforming when it comes to pick rates? In regards to Stadium, I'm very excited to try it. Can you shed some light on the regularity to which we can have expected to see heroes added to Stadium? I would love to see what crazy upgrades you guys had in mind for Wrecking Ball. Costa says, for now, the primary goal is to focus on adjusting the perks that are underperforming/overperforming. We will have a balance patch probably coming through in Season 15 mid-season patch, and we'll be swapping out some of the perks that haven't been performing well in Season 16. Pick and win rates are important factors in deciding what needs to be changed, but there is a lot of great feedback we've received about perks that don't feel good to use or play against. I wouldn't say that there are radical changes to perks in the future, but we're working to ensure perks feel good for all heroes to use. So they didn't answer the second question, unfortunately, how fast they're going to add heroes. Unfortunate. Basalute asks, will changing perks mid-game ever be an option? Costa replies, we want it to feel like you're making a meaningful choice when you select a perk, or select your perk, and when allies/enemies select your perk, you understand what to expect for them on that hero for the match. We understand there is an issue with people accidentally selecting a perk and being unable to change it. This is something we're keeping an eye on to see if there's something that can be done to help this. I won't say it will never be an option to swap your hero perks in the future, but there is currently no plans to add changing perks mid-game. Ooh, that's a bit unfortunate. I understand, because like if you missed it earlier, I talked about a little bit like for the Ana perk, right? Like if you have self-nano, probably not going to dive the Ana if she has a nano, because she's just going to nano someone and she's going to live. But if she swaps it midway through the game and you didn't see that, or midway through a fight or something without a drawback, you might miss that, and then you actually could have went on her, but you can't. So I see why they're a bit hesitant, but I think putting power in the hands of the players is always a good thing. But yeah, that's your whole AMA. There is also a dev vlog that got released, but it's literally just the AMA, I think. But there is a little blurb at the beginning. So I'm going to read this really quick from Aaron. It says, hey everyone, it's been pretty exciting watch all of you try out the different perks we've introduced to the game. We've seen some pretty amazing plays, ranging from mounting Torb turrets to ceilings on Circuit Royale, to bouncing Ana's biotic grenades onto unsuspecting opponents in an opening team fight, to my favorite, bunny hopping around Azaria. We can't wait to see what incredible plays you'll make next. Yesterday, lead gameplay designer Alec Dawson, senior producer Kenny Hudson, and associate hero designer Scott Kennedy had an Ask Me Anything on r/competitive Overwatch on Reddit. I wish we could take the time to look at them all, but it had over 600 questions and comments. The team tried to answer some of the big questions many of you had. Today's director's take will recap the answers, so make sure to check them out, and we'll see you soon for our mid-season update. Thanks, and let's make a great game. I already read through everything that's in here, though. It's the same thing we were just going over. But yeah, there you go. There's your AMA and director's take. So, a lot of good stuff in there. I hope they do try to give the ability to change perks at least a little bit, whether it's just like you have 5 seconds in case you hit the wrong button, to maybe like full swapping if there's some type of drawback, but we'll see.